All right, so we're on the air here. So I'm with Mr. Musselman from the Burlington Science Center, and I know we started these check-ins with folks, and I think it's nice to hear from people and find out how this whole situation is impacting us all differently. And I know from talking to you that you have a couple young kids at home, um,
Mhm.
and so the first check-in with a parent who has some young kids at home, and just wondering what your routine looked like during week one as we get used to this new normal for ourselves.
Yeah. Well, yeah, thank you for, having me on, Patrick, and yeah, this is a good time right now. We are recording during their nap time. So, that our first week has been about as good as we could have hoped it would be, I think. I'm very privileged. My wife and I are both educators, so we've been home with our kids since last Friday, and we haven't had a really strict schedule with our boys. Our boys are 4 and 2, so
Wow.
they're preschool age anyway, toddlers. Um, but we have had some structure. So we've always had a nap time in the afternoon, and we've been very good about sticking to a bedtime as well. Um, we've also made sure that pretty much rain or shine, we've been outside for at least 1 hour every day. I think that has been, especially with our boys seem to like thrive on that anyway. So that's been a no-brainer for us and has been really enjoyable because it's an opportunity for us to also just sort of get outside and breathe and change the scenery, so to say.
Right,
Um,
right.
yeah, and otherwise, it's felt a lot like each day is more like what we would do on a low key weekend. I think I think we want we started out sort of treating it, feeling a little bit like a snow day, and then it's like the snow days that just keep coming because you're
Right.
not able to go to museums and places, and so you're stuck in. So it's different from maybe like a extended leave that you would normally have, like a vacation where you might plan some fun trips. But fortunately, I mean, at least for us, I feel like our kids are pretty happy to have mom and dad time. Um, I know that it's a few like the youngest often wakes up asking if it's a school day, just because he's used to that. I think the past day or two he hasn't, so it's been a little bit of a change up. But they I can tell that they sort of miss their friends too. So we've been actually introducing here and there some FaceTimes with a few friends as well.
Yeah, it's such an unusual experience because nobody can say, "Oh, when that happened to me, we did this," because nobody's ever been through this before. Um, I know I hear some parents who have young kids at home saying they're being very structured, and others saying they have a broad structure, but they're trying to be flexible within that. And I don't think there's one right way to do this. But um, what's worked for your family so far?
Well, I mean, I think that we have a blended approach. I mean, I know that we've all seen, some folks with color coded schedules like posted, and my wife and I actually posted um, to Facebook very early on, like we had created a menu, if you will, a list. It was more of a menu for ourselves, like to remind ourselves, like, what do we have immediately at our fingertips that we can do and bring out as some choices for our boys and kind of rotate through those. And we shared that, more to encourage, others, like, what are you doing? What are you missing? I think that's the value of social media here is sharing what you're doing, but also making sure that you're tuned in and taking what others are doing to just sort of enrich your experiences. But that sort of blended approach, kind of that menu, choices, sort of some revolving, rotating. We've been trying to introduce like one sort of novel thing each day, and that has been good. And also, again, like, because we're privileged enough that we're both home. I mean, I think now in the state we're going to see more and more adults both be home, but given that we're in some distance learning situations now anyway, and our time can be a little more flexible, I think one of the important things that's been working for us has been making sure that there are times when I am responsible for both of the boys for, some period of time, extended period of time, so that she can go do what, she needs to do, whether that's yoga or reading or a shower, etc., and vice versa. Making sure that I have some time to do, to just sort of be in my own space and not always on, so to say.
That's a great point because that's kind of the uniqueness of this whole thing. We're not all just sitting at home waiting to teach our classes.
Mhm.
There's life going on with our families at home with us, and you happen to be two school teachers. So I
Mhm.
think it's important that people talk about that, like how to give their partner some relief, have some downtime, because it can't be just. I don't think we can survive this in a lengthy period if it's I'm on the kids, I'm doing schoolwork, I'm on the kids, I'm going to sleep. Like I think you do need to find some downtime for yourselves, and that's one of the challenges of all this.
I would 100% agree, and our good days are those days when we're conscious about that and making sure we're taking care of ourselves, and our less good days are the ones where we struggle with that, or yeah, find ourselves engaging more than maybe we should and not tending to ourselves. So
I know your kids are 2 and 4, and maybe it's too young. I haven't had 2 and 4 year olds for a while.
yeah.
How much voice do they have in the schedule each day if something's working for them or not working for them?
So, yeah, I would say that we give them a lot of choice in what they do. We allow them to lead the day in terms of what happens, and um, so that usually starts with the very first one that's awake, whoever's up. My wife and I have been alternating between who's dealing with the first that time, maybe between 6 and 7.
You're it.
And we're downstairs. We're very fortunate that we have a kind of a carpeted basement space where there's lots of toys and things. So it's more like, what do you want to do down here? It's up to you.
Okay.
And if you want us to read a book with you, we will. And if you want us to build blocks with you, we will. And if you want us to stay out of your way, we will do that.
Okay.
So we kind of uh, do it like that. Again, maybe the things that they don't choose are usually like the meals and that special thing that we're going to bring out. So usually the special thing, if you will, um, comes out after breakfast, and
Okay.
they can choose to, like, they usually both jump on it right away, and then they kind of
Yep.
move on and alternate through. We took some like rice and some beans and their trucks, and we made a dumpster like a build site in our kitchen in like one of those big clear containers. That was a hit, but
Yep.
after 2 days, like, that kind of went away. We'll probably bring it back next, in a few days. So just trying to keep what we have without totally burning ourselves out. Because yeah, I think if we gave them, I mean, I feel like they kind of have a lot of control over it, but
Yeah,
mostly
that's
choice.
great.
Yeah.
Um, you mentioned it earlier, like a couple FaceTimes with their friends. Anything else you and your wife are doing, or try to stay connected to people while we're feeling more isolated?
Yeah, I've been joking with my friends, like, I'm going 1990s on you. During somewhere around last week, I decided that during my um some of my downtime, or it was nap time, or when I had my own time, I would pick up the phone and call a friend, or family. Whether that's been FaceTime or phone, it's kind of been dependent on the person. But that has been good for me, certainly, and I think for them, everyone, anytime I call, people seem very appreciative that someone is reaching out to them. I think we just have forgotten, it's like 20 years ago, like,
Yeah,
this was a norm. It was okay. You just pick up the phone, call. They pick up or not. If they're not, they can usually call you back. So that's
it's
been
true.
good. Yeah.
The default in our busy lives seems to be texting nowadays, and It's definitely interesting. Like my brother is a guy that would only typically text me and not really a lot of voice calls. But now when everybody's home isolated, I think they want to hear some different voices. So that's a good point. People should really do that. Reach out to folks.
Yeah, we played a over the phone game of categories with my brother-in-law and his wife the other night, and that went very well. We had some chatting, sort of just socializing and a little game, and that
Yeah,
felt good. So we're trying to navigate it just like everyone else. What is the line between social isolation and social distancing and being
yeah.
people. So.
No, that's great. So the last thing I wanted to ask about, because I think it's really important more than ever that we look for things to be grateful for when
Mhm.
things may be getting a little darker for us, depending if we're tired and we've been more isolated. So, any areas or things of gratitude that you've noticed over the last week or 8 or 9 days that we've been going through this?
I can just I speak for myself, I guess, around the gratitude. I've really appreciated the people, the hardworking people who have been at the grocery stores and making it work in their restaurants with takeout and stuff. I mean, I and the people who are on the front lines. I have a lot of friends in nursing and such, nursing fields and medical fields who are are busting their butt to make sure this is as my as small a blip as it can possibly be, a blip in our lives. But I also appreciate those who have been connecting with some of the science center things that Wendy and I have been posting. I don't think, or I know that an important part of us being a society and a community is that people always feel purpose, and some people find purpose in their work, and I certainly do when I can connect with kids, and it's been special to see photos and comments of families connecting in these little challenges as they things that Wendy or I have sort of spun off for them, that feels good, that we're giving them a distraction. And but I also say that if there's any purpose right now that we should all acknowledge, it's that purpose of keeping our larger communities well, and practicing that social distancing. So I'm grateful for those of us too who are being really mindful of that and not poo-pooing some of these important messages that are coming out of our health officials. So thank you for that.
All right. Thank you, Sean. Thanks for taking the time, and we'll check back again sometime soon.
You bet. Thanks for having me, Patrick.